and do that. All right. So, for everyone just joining, we want to say welcome. We're very, very excited that you could see the recording and hope and look forward to seeing you hopefully in the future. So, first of all, welcome to the launching of still yet to be thought, but something about a mentoring and coaching corner with our dear beloved Chris. And I think before I really jump in about what this all is about and kind of the housekeeping details, I actually wanted to give the floor to Chris to explain really why we're here and why we're doing this. So.
Thank you, Joanna. This is something that I'm very passionate about, coaching and mentoring people. It's something I've been doing for many, many years. And actually, I've been mentoring people for free for many years, which was a byproduct of working at an NLP institute where we offered an NLP practitioner certification training. And I started working at Anchor Point NLP Institute with Tim Hallbaum and Susie Smith in 1988 as their director of marketing, media, and public relations and sales. So one of my jobs was to enroll people into the NLP practitioner certification training. Back then, we were attracting mostly therapists or people who wanted to be coaches, and I myself was already a coach and doing NLP therapy, and had some really good luck in starting a practice at a really early age. So one of the things I started doing was whenever somebody signed up for the NLP practitioner training, I would offer to do free mentoring with them on starting an NLP coach practice or starting a therapy practice, just as a side benefit. And also, I really loved doing it. It was fun for me. I really loved marketing. I loved helping people. I loved coaching. I loved therapy. I loved psychology, and it was effortless. So I started doing that, and so I've been quietly doing this for about 20 years, offering free mentoring to people whenever they sign up for our NLP practitioner training, or for years we did an ICF 20-day coach certification training through our NLP Institute of California, and I would offer the free mentoring to students that signed up for that. And so it's just something, like I said, I've done quietly and have told people about it. And so, Joanna, you, I know when I first met you, you were a beginner coach, and I said, hey, I'm happy to answer any questions or mentor you if you ever want. And so you bid on that, reached out, emailed me, asked me questions. We had phone conversations, and then you said to me, you should share this with a lot of people. And then you, the word I use is nudged me, bugged me, and I'm so grateful to be in this format with you, because now I can take my love of helping others and freely helping others and share that widely with a lot of people. And I'm very grateful to you for setting up the room, this Zoom group, to make that happen and to make that possible. So thank you, Joanna, for being our moderator and for being my co-pilot in all of this.
You're very welcome. I'm super excited for that. And I think one thing that you said earlier before when we were talking is that an intention you have for everyone that is here is to be able to come in with questions and ideas and maybe connect with each other, but also leave with a sense of feeling smarter and having gained some really useful knowledge that they can use in their own practices. So I think
exactly, that is my goal, is that people leave these meetings feeling empowered, feeling like you have a sense you know what to do, that you have questions answered about how to manage your practice, how to promote yourself, and that I dispense information that is practical that you can put to use right away. It's important for me to say I will not be self-promoting myself in any way. I'm so blessed. I have a lot of clients. I have a steady flow in and out of my practice. I have plenty of international work, so I will not be promoting myself. This is just purely my love of wanting to help people and to mentor and to guide and share my 30 years. Did I say 30 years?
Amazing. Can I open your head and just pour it in
Yeah.
mine, please? It's amazing.
Sure. Yeah.
So good.
So,
Yeah, we're so blessed to having you, Chris. This is
well,
amazing. Thank you.
yeah, welcome, Mikkel. I'm glad that you're here. So,
Yes. Yes.
So with that, Joyna had prepared some questions for us.
Of course she did. She's an organizational genius.
And then if any of you have any questions,
Mhm.
please feel free to ask away.
Great.
Yeah, so we have about 5 questions that are set, and then after that, there'll be time for more questions. But I wanted to start actually with a disclaimer for everybody, is that it's really, really wonderful, and I'm really thankful that Chris is sharing her 30 years and plus of knowledge and wealth and ideas. But I think for everybody that's on a different point in their own journey, it's good to take in the knowledge and see what fits well with you, and then leave the rest. Like, there is no one set path. And so it's that idea of congruence, of what feels fully congruent for you. And maybe some of the things Chris says, I would say most of it makes sense, but maybe there's 1 or 2 where you're like, I'm not sure. And so that allows and empowers you to go on your own journey as well in figuring out, okay, what are the steps? So the other disclaimer is that Chris is an amazing, amazing coach, but she's not a lawyer, and she's not
I'm not.
Or
a
doctor.
huge guru on the most ideal way of starting your practice. So I think for anything that comes in regards to the nitty-gritty parts and the law in regards to your practice, that also is an empowering moment of, okay, Chris is going to give some really good advice, but ultimately the real learning comes from our own research as well. So
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Joyna. And I also am grateful that you're on this call as well as all of you, because I know you all are coaches or want to be coaches. And one of the things I'll admit right off the bat is that the marketing paradigm nowadays is constantly shifting. And it's very different than when I first started. And so I do know something about it, but I don't want to say I'm an expert. So I'd like to invite anybody on this call to share their experiences. If for any reason, I don't feel like I can answer it, or if you feel like there is an answer that you have that might help everybody. So I just wanted to put that out as well.
yeah, great. Okay, so launching in, the first question is kind of a bigger general one that can kind of go in any direction. But for those that are new in the field or thinking about launching their own private practices, what are some tips you have for getting started? I think the idea of starting a practice can be very overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of chunking it down to, what are some of the very crucial steps to just get started that you would recommend?
Thank you. Yeah, that's a good question, and there is definitely a strategy. And one of the things I always tell people right off the bat, and this is an obvious one, is just get some type of a website up. It doesn't need to be fancy, but something, even if it's just 1 page, but that's going to help get you motivated to keep pursuing what it is that you want to do. And I think most of you may already have a coach's website. Secondly, get a business card. The reason why I say that is because it's important to do that, in that it helps you begin to formulate your identity more around being a coach. Also, a trifold little brochure. When I say trifold, I mean just take an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, list your experience and what your services are, and if you feel comfortable, your fees. and just have that available to people as well, and keep those things handy. So if you have your business cards handy, if you have your trifold brochure handy, if you have a website that's even got just one page on it, then it's something that you can direct people to. The other thing, though, that in my experience is even more important than all of that is actually working with people and doing free sample sessions, and or charging, and just charging a nominal amount of money, but really getting out there and working with people, because the more people that you work with, the more comfortable that you're going to get working with people, the more confident you're going to feel, the more you're going to be embracing that identity of being a coach or a therapist or a consultant, the more people will know what you're doing. And as a result, you'll actually start getting referrals. And so I think it's really important to start working with people, but make sure that you work with people who you are comfortable working with. So sometimes you might, have a tendency to want to take people who might be over your head, like somebody that, could be on medication for schizophrenia or something like that. And so just make sure that you properly vet your clients before you work with them, or even before you work with people for free, that it's within your capability. If you're really serious about starting a practice, then one of the things you could do also, in lieu of doing a free sample session, is you can charge a nominal amount of money, like $20 or $30. What's good about this is that if you're really wanting to attract paying clients, you'll attract people who are more serious about becoming paying clients. The next thing is, and I won't get into this now, but there is a real formula for how to do a free sample session or an introductory sample session where you're charging a nominal fee. There's a formula for how to do that in such a way that you increase the chances of being able to close and enroll the client for future coaching. And that's something that I'd certainly be happy to get into, but that's different than how to start a practice. That's more enrolling people and actually getting paying clients.
That might be a future video call.
Yeah.
Get
yeah.
all around that.
Yeah.
Can I ask a quick question? Can you hear me now? So when you mentioned vetting out your capabilities as far as making sure you're not over your head, how would you go about doing that? Like, obviously what you just said, somebody has schizophrenia, they want to get off a medication. That's obvious, but
Right.
is there more subtle?
It is, and Stancy, it's really what is within your comfort zone, and
So what
also
you feel comfortable. Okay.
and what's appropriate. Because
Okay.
I know when I first started, this was in '89, I was doing more NLP therapy, because coaching didn't start really becoming mainstream till the early to mid '90s. So I was working more as a quote unquote NLP therapist. And at that time, I saw all kinds of people. It was weird because about a third of my clients were people with sex issues, which I thought was really interesting. And, and I worked with drug addicts and severely alcoholic people. And I just realized really quickly that maybe it would be better for them to actually go to a licensed professional, those type of people. And so I just started getting clear on the type of people that I like to work with and what I didn't like to work with, and when I was over my head. And I guess that's just something that when you work with a person and they present their problem or what it is that they want to work with, you can actually make a picture in a movie of you working with them and see yourself working with them over time, and imagine what your approach is. And if you really feel confident, like, yeah, I got this, I could help them, then that's something that you could go for. But it's just important to vet your clients and make sure that you're a good match for them and they're a good match for you, and that you're not taking people that you probably have no business taking.
Got it.
Yeah. So thanks. That's a good question.
And that ties back, Chris, to what you said earlier, is that be open to working with many different people, because I think you figure out that vetting process by working with all these different types and like, oh, actually, I can't be very helpful in this case. Well, now I know for future reference, of referring someone in that direction.
Yeah, and thanks, Joanna, for asking that, because that's one of the things that in the early coaching days that started running around in circles is that you have to have a niche. You've got to have your special niche and figure out the type of people you want to work with. And some people are, really just know off the bat, but others don't. But one of the ways to figure out what that niche is and what you want to work with is to just start working with as many people as possible and not limit yourself. But at the same time, know what is within your limits. And I'll give you an example. Like, for example, now, I will not work with substance abuse issues because I know how incredibly complicated they are. And because of my travel schedule, it would be unecological for me to work with, people with severe alcoholism or drug addict issues. The same goes with weight issues. I've worked a lot with weight, but to me, and other people might say this is different, but I kind of put, especially if it's somebody who's morbidly obese, I kind of put that in the same category of working with addictions. And again, those are very complex issues. It would be unecological given my travel schedule. And so there's a range of things now that I'm clear I don't like to work with, but more importantly, I'm very clear on what I do like to work with. And that has shifted over the years, and that will sometimes shift for you, where you have a certain target niche that you like to do, but then you want to break out of that and do something else or do both. And so that's really normal. But the thing is that the more people you work with, the clearer that you get on the type of people you're comfortable to work with, which is why it's so important to work with people.
So in our HCT group, there's several people that are super niche oriented into like one physicality, like one, I think it's like maybe somebody's into Parkinson's, or, it's very focused like that. What I get the sense of with you is that yours is a bit more general. Is that right? Because I've been trying to figure out that for myself, and mine feels a bit more zoomed out. But what would you say to that, really narrowing the niche?
Well, again, my sense is that the more people you work with, the more comfortable you'll get and figuring out what that is. The problem with like working specifically with Parkinson's or just with a specific symptom is that makes your pool of potential clients really small. So if you have like a direct line to people with those type of issues, maybe somebody that works at a hospital or
Right. Yeah.
But in terms of really figuring out what it is that you like or what your niche should be or the type of people you work with, again, it's just working with a lot of people. And I hate to use myself as an example, but I'll just give you one because my niche has changed several times.
Okay.
One of the things I really loved and I did for many, many years was working with people around their limiting beliefs and their blockages around money, wealth, being successful. And so in a way it was like success coaching. And so that was a big focus. And then what springed out of that was to do what I call breakthrough coaching, which was that somebody just presents their biggest problem in life to me. And then we have these really amazing, powerful breakthrough experiences, where they kind of bust through it and they go to their next level of success. And that was a lot of fun, and that spun out of all the money and the wealth work because what I realized is that money is a metaphor for who we are and for our life, right? So how you think about money is really a metaphor for your life as a whole. So that bridged out into doing, this breakthrough coaching. But the problem with that was that a lot of people started expecting miracles every time I worked with them. And that went on for years and years. And it was a lot of fun, but what came from that was because I had been mentoring people for so long, I delved more into what's called business development coaching. So that was my next thing I did. So I worked with a lot of people starting private practices, but I wasn't mentoring them like this, because in my coach practice, please everybody write this down, when we teach NLP coaching, we do a 10-day ICF NLP coach program in Japan. That's an outgrowth of when we did the 20-day International Coach Federation program. As a coach, you do not give advice. You never give advice as a coach. You ask people powerful questions, you listen, you do processes, you do techniques, you champion them, but you don't give them advice. So when I started my business development coaching practice, that was more focused on helping people break through their beliefs or their limitations around having a practice, or just helping to keep them on target for all of their goals around setting up a practice, which is what a coach does. And then from that, now what I'm doing mostly is executive coaching and leadership coaching. But I'll give you a big secret here. It's all the same. It's all the same. My executives, every single executive I work with now, it all gets back down to mommy and daddy.
But it's a great frame to help people have it be more tangible when they're like, what's NLP? And you're like, executive coaching. And they're like, oh, great, I need that.
Exactly. And what I love about it is that you do attract a more higher functioning clients who can pay, who have a tendency to be more goal driven and solution oriented versus problem oriented.
Yeah.
And so now I'm really loving doing the executive coaching and the leadership coaching, but really honestly, it's all the same, whether you're working with health or life or leadership, it's all the same. And it's just a matter of you starting to get clear on what it is that you like to do and what your passion is, and then going for it. And I guess one last thing, I'm really talking a lot, but what I've found is that once you achieve that clarity and you say, yeah, I want to do this, and you feel congruent about it, you'll start attracting those type of people. Yeah. It's so weird. Yeah, you know that, right?
Oh, so good. Yeah. Well, question on the topic of not giving advice.
Right.
That was kind of like interesting. I know in our processes we don't do that, but in a healing session, if you will, if something comes to mind that you're like, oh, this person might need to know about this, I should pass this on, or just that download that you get sometimes. What would you say about that?
Right. Yeah. Well, let me backtrack just so you know, with the International Coach Federation, one of their criteria or standards for being a really good coach, and especially if you go for like master certification coach with ICF, is that you do not give advice. So what do you do instead? You ask powerful questions to help the client figure out their own answer or their own best solution, because when the client can figure out their own answer or their own best solution, then they have more ownership of that and they feel more driven to want to go for their own solution. So actually in our trainings in Japan, we spend like a good 2 days just doing listening exercises, and also asking powerful questions in lieu of giving advice. But then we do an exercise where we have people just give each other advice for like a half hour each to see what that's like. And that the contrast is so mind-blowingly overwhelming that after that they're like, no, I'll never give a client advice, you know. So that's what you do. Sometimes you do get those downloads, Stancy, where you do have an idea. I had something like that just yesterday with a client, and it was at the very end of the call. And one of the ways you can approach that is get their permission. So I said to the client at the end of the call, I said, I would like to make a suggestion for you how you can carry forward this goal that we just worked for on. May I make a suggestion? And she said, sure.
Of course. Yeah.
And then I said, thank you for letting me offer up a suggestion. And I just want to let you know that if it doesn't feel right for you, you will not hurt my feelings. And so the suggestion was around setting her intent every day before she goes to work.
Yeah.
I told her I do that every time before I have a coach session. And she went, oh my gosh, you do? Really? And it was like really huge. And so she grabbed onto it. But you know, only about 2/3 of the time the client will grab onto it, and the other third the client will be in. But what I found is that if you ask them and you help them figure out their own best answer, that it is going to be so much better than whatever you had in mind for them.
Yeah. I guess
So thank you for that.
That's
Chris, may I add? I know that some coaches or NLP therapists give assigned homework as a guideline.
Right.
To just promote the process even better and have the customer more accountable and have something in mind throughout the week. How do you see this?
I think that in the right circumstances, that's a wonderful idea. And what's important with that is to make sure that you have already contracted with the client that you'll be giving them homework, that you have their permission, that is okay with them. And then if you do assign them homework, again, you know, get their permission. Is I'd like to give you some homework. Is this something you think you can do? Is it something you want to do?
Yeah.
And if they say yes, then here comes the next big coaching concept, which is another ICF, International Coach Federation concept that all ICF coaches know about, which is that of holding the client accountable. And so then you say to, and you can even hold them accountable when there's not homework, but when they just say something, you know, they make a promise or a commitment they're going to do something. As coach, you can say, okay, can I hold you accountable to that? And again, this is something you want to pre-contract with them. And what holding them accountable means is that now they're making a promise to you that yes, indeed, they will do the homework. They will do whatever it is that you're asking them to do, or whatever it is that they wanted to do, and that they're okay with you holding them accountable. And so then you can create a plan. Well, how will you get back with me on that? Like I had a client who wanted to start a gym membership, and he wanted to do it right away, actually wanted to do it that night. And he very much wanted to be held accountable to doing that because he needed to lose some weight and get going on that. And so what we worked is that the way he would be held accountable is as soon as he signed up, he would text me and let me know that indeed he did do it. So now he's got this thing riding on him, like he's got to do that, and he's got to text me. Otherwise, if he doesn't, you know, then he's not being accountable. And that is a really wonderful coaching tool to help motivate your clients towards achieving the goals that they want to achieve and keeping them on track with it. Mm-hmm. So does that help? So homework is fine. And I think it's really up to you. It's like what Joanna said at the beginning of the call. I don't have all the answers. My style is going to be different than yours or anybody else's. You might like the type of coach that wants to give homework a lot. And it just depends on what your style is and what you're comfortable.
Actually, the way I studied it in Israel was, again, the more therapeutic approach combined with guided imagery. So almost every session we would do NLP technique, and we'll finish it by a trance-guided imagery that promotes and encourages whatever we talked about in the NLP to continue the process. And the theme was no homework. Then I studied timeline therapy. And in timeline therapy, they say after a 4-hour of investigation, basically a lot of questions, the client has to agree that they will comply to any homework you'll give them without even knowing what you're about to give them. That's part of the contract. And you have to give an ordeal homework, and part of them making that, being accountable and doing that is already part of the solution. After they do that, you accept them for a 1-day breakthrough session of timeline therapy. So that was the concept I've heard of homework. And in other cases, I've just heard other coaches do that. I normally don't do that. But sometimes if it makes sense to do a small thing, then I would recommend them to do that and send me a text back when they do.
Okay, well, good. Well, thank you for sharing that. And I like the idea of sending a text or an email or whatever, but that's an interesting way of dealing with that. And like I said, everybody's going to have their own way, and like Joyna said, so I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there something you could speak to about ICF? Because you've referenced that several times, the International Coaching.
The International Coach Federation.
Yes. What is that? Something that you guys are a part? Is that something we could gain more information from, or?
Well, yeah, they have a website. It's I think it's internationalcoachfederation.com. And certainly you could look into becoming a member if you wanted, or if you wanted to pursue some type of an ICF coach class or coach training, that might be valuable.
Okay.
To do that.
Yeah.
It is a really good organization in that way.
And you were teaching as part of it, or I was trying to understand the connection to you?
Well, for years and years, we had through our own institute, we did a 20-day ICF accredited NLP coach certification training that we also taught it's still going in Mexico and China, all over the US. And it was just a lot, because one of the things with ICF is, there is a lot to becoming credentialed. I mean, it's a really massive process.
Got it.
And yeah. And what I found is a lot of people who do well in coaches, actually most of the coaches that I know who do really well are not even ICF accredited coaches. Yeah. And Tim and I certainly don't have our ICF accreditation.
Got it. That's helpful. Yeah.
Yeah. So we still teach the concepts, because there's a lot of good concepts. So yeah.
Right. Great.
I was wondering, can we call ourselves coaches if we haven't got a certificate of coaches? Like, how to define ourselves? I mean, I use NLP trainer and master practitioner, but if I try to use a tagline, the one that I have on my business card now reads results-oriented counseling, because I didn't really want to. I think for counseling, you don't have to have any type of certificate.
I have coaching.
Or even using the word therapist in the States, I've heard, because in Israel, I would say I'm a therapist. But here I understand it, you need a special credential for being a therapist, and you can't use this word.
Stancy, did you have something to say?
No, I have NLP coaching on my card, so I'm really curious to see what your answer is.
I don't. I have NLP master practitioner and NLP trainer.
Well, you can call yourself any kind of coach you want. You can be a sex coach. You can be a huggy coach. I know there's hugging coaches out there.
There are.
Oh, really?
It's a hugging coach. Yes.
Yeah, it is such a free for all. And I think that's one of the reasons why, it is really, you can just call yourself whatever you want to call yourself in the United States to answer your question as far as coaches. As far as therapists, you need to be a little bit more careful with that. You, in the States, traditionally, you need to have some type of a license and have gone to graduate school to call yourself a therapist. That doesn't mean that people don't, but it's not as widely accepted as being able to call yourself a coach, which is why I think so many people do call themselves coaches. And what's maddening though is that some of the people who call themselves coaches really aren't coaches, because they're doing consulting or mentoring like I'm doing, that requires, giving a lot of advice and giving
Yes.
instruction and telling people what to do. And that's not coaching. Coaching, I believe it comes from the Greek, which means to convey. And where the word coaching actually originally came from is, you remember the stage coaches from the old day?
Yeah.
You would get in a coach and it would take you from one place to the next. And that's what a coach does. They, you say, I'm here in this place in my life and I want you to take me here. And so away, you're coaching them. And so that's really where the word came from. And so that's why it's important to, not give advice or to lead, but to just ask a lot of questions, be a good listener, listen for beliefs, listen for those unconscious barriers in their language, in their body language, their linguistical language, the words they use, and then help them remove the barriers with all the techniques, and then guide them. And then once they get their goal, then as a coach, you say, fantastic, yay, you got your goal, you celebrate. And then you say, okay, now what do you want to go for? What's next? And so that's what a coach does. So you're constantly guiding people and you're constantly helping them get better and better. And that was kind of the problem with just doing straight up NLP, which I did for years, because I would have a client come to me and they'd say, oh, I have a phobia, or, I've got this problem. So then I would just, give them all the NLP I know. And within one session, or usually definitely 3 sessions, they were quote unquote fixed. I don't like that word, but that was back then. And then I never saw them, or I saw them when the next problem came up. So the time with the clients was very short-lived, because the problem with NLP is it works really fast. And I love that. But what I love about coaching, combining it with NLP, is that it actually gives you a format and a structure to work with people over time. And that's what coaching is really all about, is it's really about helping people continually evolve themselves and be their best selves across every area of their life.
It's actually a really nice reframe that you came with, Chris, is that looking at coaching as a goal-oriented process instead of a problem-oriented process.
Oh, I like that.
Right? Because problems want to be solved all the time, but a goal, we can keep on having more and more goals, and that is far more empowering, I think. So
yeah, well, yeah, it is. Thank you for that. And I do look at it that way.
Yeah, that's good. I like that.
I know I'm going to start looking at it that way too.
Yeah, I'm having it for a while on my business card for like a year by now.
Yeah, I like that.
That's what we're looking for, right? We're looking for the desired outcome. What do you want to achieve?
Right, exactly. Well, and that's what you want to ask. That's the very, very, very first question as a coach that you ask. What do you want? And how will you know when you get it? What will you see, hear, and feel to let you know that you got it? What will having achieved that goal, what will that do for you? So, those are, you want to just do a well-formed outcome with them. And even if it's a problem, same thing. Well, you've got this problem. Okay, well, what do you want instead?
Yeah.
Chris, I want to be aware of time because
Thank you.
time flies when we're having fun. We're definitely having fun. So I might just shift gears just a little bit because there were a few questions that I think won't be too lengthy in your response, but kind of the original reason why we got on the call. But one of the ideas for people when they're launching their practice is that idea of, do I create a business as a sole proprietorship or as an LLC? Company, and so what has been your experience in that case?
Right, and I'm curious, is anyone on the call right now actually filed as a sole proprietor or an LLC yet, or are you just, you haven't officially
So I
done?
think I will, last year I sort of opened, at least in accounting, as a self-proprietary. I got the advice from my accountant not to use LLC, that it doesn't make sense in my business. Well, at least not in this time frame. He did recommend, I asked him about professional liability. He said that that could be a good option to do, and that covers, and that would be even better than creating an LLC, because if there is any problem, I'll have the specific professional liability, and it's much cheaper as well.
Right, okay, excellent. So yeah, so getting that professional liability can cover you as a sole proprietor. Thank you for that and for that, sharing that. Joanna, I'd be curious, I know, would you mind sharing your experience on this?
I am still investigating, but it feels for me, I think I'll do also sole proprietor, because in California state law and how it works out, starting an LLC can be pretty costly. And as long as, I think like what Michelle said, is as long as there's the professional liability and making sure your ducks in a row, sole proprietorship actually is a beneficial way to go about starting a private practice.
Okay, yeah, thanks for sharing that. I feel reluctant to give advice on this because I think it's something that everybody should investigate. But I know for me, when I first started, I started as a sole proprietor. And I think if you're running a smaller operation and you're just seeing clients and you're not really doing anything else, that is probably going to be the better way and the more costly way to go. And that's something that I certainly did for years and years. Of course, being an institute owner and an international trainer and selling products and having a products line and stuff, my business is much more complicated. So we've gone from LLC to corp, back and forth many times. I think right now we're an LLC again. But I, you know, my deal's different. But I think it's a good thing to talk to other coaches about, and I guess if you are going to be just seeing clients and really not doing much else, then probably a sole proprietorship would be the most cost effective and easiest way to go, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And it's what I did. I was amazed at how easy it was when I first started my first official coach practice in 1996. I couldn't believe how easy it was to file as a sole proprietor. It was so cool. So, yeah.
I need to get some of the liability forms, like some sort of just boilerplate form. I keep being asked for that, and I'm like, I'll get you one.
Do you have a contract that you give your clients?
I do not have one yet. That's what I need to form.
That's actually the next question. There you go.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, mine's been very grassroots.
You know what? This keeps bugging me. I think I've got. Anyway,
pull back the veil.
Well, I'm just revealing more and more of myself.
Oh, perfect.
Peeling the layers like an onion.
Exactly. Okay, so what was the next question?
Well, it's wonderful that Stancy kind of launched into it,
Yeah.
but the idea of a contract, there's so many out there, but what are some components of a contract that you think are really, that are boilerplate and mandatory?
Yeah, where can we get
Yeah,
one? feel from it.
There are, and actually, I already forwarded Joanna my letter. I don't call it a contract
Yeah.
because that seems so
Yeah.
demeaning. So
I like that word.
I
Yeah.
call it a letter agreement.
Okay.
And I will have Joanna. At least I think we already agreed to this, that you'll go ahead and you can forward that and share that
Mm-hmm.
with people. By the way, I have two contracts. I have two letter agreements. One's that's more for just students or regular clients. So my coaching rate is much different than my corporate rate, which is a lot
Oh
higher.
yeah. Yeah, for sure.
But I decided to share that one because that one is, I think you guys will relate to more. So yeah, so the components of a contract or a letter agreement. First off, what you want to do is in that you want to set up how you're going to work with clients. So basically, you want to set up when you'll start working with them, what you'll charge, what your cancellation policy is, which that's really important to have a cancellation policy in there because you can't have your clients just canceling on you at the last minute. It does happen, but what I find is that when you have a cancellation policy in there, it will get the clients to call you like within a day or two in advance, so you're not getting last minute, right?
Right.
Mine says that if you don't call me within 24 hours, I'll charge you. I've never really done that. Okay. I've only done it once. Fortunately, I don't get people charging, canceling hardly ever. And when and if they do, it's usually some really, really good reason. And I just don't have the heart to do that. But I still think it's good to have it in there because it gets people, it motivates them to want to contact you. If they do, they're not just blowing you off at the last minute. And there's nothing worse than having that happen. So you want to outline when you're going to start working, how you'll work, your cancellation policy, and then you'll want to explain to them what your system is for how your work. And I do that just in a paragraph. You'll see that in mine.
Okay.
And then in mine, I list all my experience so people know what my background is. So I've listed, all my trainings that I've done, all the trainings I teach in, my education, people I've worked with. And it's also kind of a confidence booster for the client when they can see that everybody on this call has probably had a minimum of 50 days of some type of training that relates to what you're doing. So that's the basic components of a letter agreement, and I'm happy to share that with you, what I do.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Can you touch on, Chris, really quick, specifically for California? There's like a little blurb in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can never get this right. It's the California Alternative Act, Senate Bill. What's the number on that? Let me look real quick. And this is something you guys will want to research because it's in my contract, especially with my California clients that I work under. Hang on a minute. I'm just looking this up right now.
What did you call it?
It's I meant to pull this up before the call. Here I go. I think I've got it right here. It is, yeah, shoot.
577.
Did you find it?
Alternative Medicine Act, California Senate Bill 577.
Yeah, the Alternative Medicine Act, California Senate Bill 577.
Can you
right?
repeat that, please?
Can you repeat
California?
Oh, I'm so sorry. It is the California Alternative Medicine Act.
Mm-hmm.
Senate Bill.
Senate Bill 577.
Senate Bill again?
577.
577. And what does that mean?
Yeah, here, I've got it right here. The Alternative Medicine Act. California Senate Bill 577. And what this does is it basically is saying that you are not licensed by the state of California, but that it's still okay for you to practice the way that you are and that you can do that legally.
Mm-hmm.
So it's something that both Tim and I have in our agreements.
Mm-hmm.
And Joanna will send that out to you and you can get the exact wording on it, but it's kind of a nice way to cover.
Mm-hmm.
So sorry I didn't have that pulled up right away.
Worries. That's great.
Yep, I'll send it. And then I think tacking on that, different coaches have different recommendations in regards to insurance. And so what would you say has been your experience with being insured as a coach or not? Or
Right. Well, and Michelle, I hope I'm saying your name right.
It's okay. You can go. Yeah, Michelle is fine. I go by Michelle here because otherwise it's really hard.
Michelle.
Otherwise it's Michal, and it's really hard to say.
Michal. Okay. And I know that you had referenced that, and then I know Joanna also. You had said you looked into it, right?
mm-hmm.
So
there's another one through another organization that I got through the American Board of NLP. That the institute I studied in Israel is recognized by the American Board of NLP, and so I'm a certified NLP trainer by that organization, and so there is a membership fee that you need to pay every year, but through that you can also check their insurance.
Okay,
for NLP.
great. Yeah, thank you for that. And then Joanna, thank you very much. Joanna, I know you looked into it. I just, part of me, I do have my opinion on all of this, but I think it's good to hear how some of the other people in the group are doing it. And I know you looked into it as well, right? And what did you find out?
I did, and I found it's insurance for coaches for all different types of basically healing modalities, and it doesn't look to be too expensive. It's a little over $200 a year, which is really similar to the link that Michelle also shared. So I think maybe what would be easiest is getting those 3 or 4 different websites, and then people can investigate too.
Okay, great. Yeah, let's do that. I'll tell you my experience and Tim's experience and the experience of Jan Elkline, who's a master certified coach with ICF. None of us have insurance. None of us have ever had insurance, and I don't want to recommend that you shouldn't have it, but yeah. I honestly believe that if you are a person of integrity and that you're just coming from your heart and you properly vet your clients, and that you're not going to have any issues. Yeah. And so, while we do have insurance on our bigger business, like with, trainings or things like that, for just the one-on-one coaching that we do, we have never carried it and have never, ever, ever had an issue, ever. And as far as I know, Jan, who's pretty high up with the International Coach Federation, who's a master certified coach and a really dear colleague of ours, said that not only did she not carry it, but that she didn't know anyone that had carried it either. So, but that may have changed in recent years, and it still might be a good thing for you guys to do. So I don't want to say don't do it, but I just know that we've never had any issues.
Well, it's good to know, and thank you for that, because it does give a perspective. Mm-hmm. I get in the Read and Lead, How to Lead and Read with Integrity seminar. Hello?
Yeah,
okay, you still there because the picture was stuck. So Robert Harrison, as he did the How to Read and Lead with Integrity seminar, he talked about the 5 different people's profiles. And one of them is the secured type. And the secure type needs to have everything secured. Although nothing may happen, right?
Well, and you know, and the other thing we call that in NLP meta programs is having an away from strategy.
Mm.
And so for some people, you know, if you really feel like you need to do that, then do that. But like I said, you know, I in more recent years have gotten really good at vetting clients. I once had a client, a guy, where we went back and forth, emailed back and forth, set up a session, had our first session, and I knew within 10 or 15 minutes that I was never going to work with him again. But I went ahead and finished the sentence. It actually scared me. He was stalking a woman who was
Wow.
a TV news anchor. And clearly he had some really serious issues. And I was like, oh my gosh, how am I going to deal with this, you know? And so at the end of the, you know, and I knew I would never work with him again, but we went ahead and did a session. And once the session was complete, I spent a couple days thinking about what I was going to do. And I ended up writing him a really long letter explaining to him why I couldn't work with him. I gave him the first session for free, so I did not charge him. And then I found 3 really good NLP licensed psychiatrists, not psychologists, psychiatrists, for him to see. And he wrote me back and he was so grateful. And I think, you know, especially grateful that I didn't charge him. And my sense is that you know, when you keep in that balance with people, then you're less likely to attract situations where people might want to cause you harm. It's one of the reasons why I typically don't charge when somebody cancels session, because usually people have really good reasons. And if somebody were to cancel like twice in a row or start getting flaky, then I just fire them as a client, you know. But I do it very gently. I have a very gentle way of where I, you know, hey, I'm leaving the country and we, you know, we can't work together for a while, and then I just let it go. But again, you know, I think the way you treat people, if you treat people with respect and compassion and love, then you're never going to have that kind of an issue. But with that, I still think, you know, back to Michal, I hope I'm saying it right. If you are, you know, do have those type of worries or concerns, please get insurance. And you might as well get it anyway, especially if it's only $200, right?
But I'm thinking, you know, in terms of right now, the sessions that I started going for is offering free lectures at the local library to attract people, you know, they only need to invest an hour of their time to learn something new. And then, but right now it's in the area of health and well-being. And I'm thinking about also doing sessions for allergies. Now with allergies, some can be, you know, I'd like to be more assured that, because some people, you know, I don't want to deal with life-threatening allergies. They have to get their physician, you know, approval and get tested and whatever not. And it will take time to get to a place that people maybe even trust someone who's doing other things to help them with it, to overcome the allergy. But maybe because it is a thing that have physiology impact, or people that have autoimmune diseases may sort of blame you if things don't work out the way they expect.
Then exactly. I would be a good idea to do that. Absolutely. So that's the reason why I said at the beginning, and thank you for that, is that I think it's really best to investigate for yourself. So yeah.
So I'm aware we were 6 minutes over, so close to an hour.
Yeah.
But because it was promised to be around an hour, I don't want to take any other time up at all. But Chris, I don't know if there's any last thoughts that you wanted to share.
I just want to thank everybody for being on the call, and I guess I'm just curious in one sentence each, what did you each get from this? I'm curious. What's your takeaway? And just one is all.
Clarity and direction, I would say, for me.
Okay, good.
For me, it's like plugging back into the matrix.
Oh, great.
It's really helpful.
For me, is not being afraid to use the word coach,
Oh, good.
because I said if I'm not accredited by the ICF, how can I say I'm a coach?
Right.
Um,
Well, thank you. Yeah, and by the way, that's how I always end my coaching sessions. So every time I end a session, I say, "What's your takeaway? What did you get? What did you learn?" And and I learned that from another master certified coach who we were trading coaching, and I learned some really good things from her, and that was one of them. Was I loved that way of ending the session, and it's something
Great.
something Tim and I do now, but it helps the client integrate what they got. Is you just say, what was your takeaway from this? What are you going to carry forward? What did you learn from today? Or what did you get? And it's just a nice way to always end. So that's why I asked that.
and also to focus their energy on the good things that went
Right.
through, and not
Yep.
and remember the good things at the end.
Yep, absolutely.
Well,
So
Chris, what was your takeaway?
my takeaway is that I love doing this, and I want to keep doing it, and I'd like to meet once a month, and I want to expand it out and to more people, and I love it. I'm just very passionate about helping people, and it feels really good to just freely give and to freely share my experience, and to do it with people that I think and I hope appreciate it. So
Yes,
thank you
very much.
Deep
Thank you so much.
appreciation. I've been asking the universe for mentorship.
It is. So thank you.
Thank you. We're really blessed to having you, Chris.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thank you, Joyna, for putting it together, love.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I look forward to the next month. We'll be figuring that out really soon.
Yes,
So
Yes,
thank
we
you,
will.
Chris.
We'll
meeting
be
each other
in
very
touch.
soon. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Great.
take care, you guys. Big hug to all of you.
Yes,
Thank
we'll
you.
see you next week.
See you.